Welcome to Mastering Life's Adventures, an educational podcast about tapping into your true self, the soul, the substance of your life, to discover what life's ups and downs are really about, and how to have a greater sense of purpose, peace, joy, and fulfillment. I am Dr. Judith Holder, your host, coach, psychologist, fellow seeker who enjoys diving into the connections between spirituality, psychology, wellness, and your everyday life's adventures. All preparing and polishing you like the facets of a magnificent diamond to be your best self. If you're craving more from your life, you are in the right place. Come, let's journey together and transforming what you know into who you really are. Mastering Life's Adventures begins now.
You ever wake up full of fire only to feel stuck later in the day? It feels like the motivation seems to fade away as the day moves on. Or you pursued a goal or many goals, and yet you feel spiritually empty despite achieving those goals. What if our usual idea of motivation is spiritually misaligned, incomplete, and even misleading? Hi, I'm back with another key to soul progress. And what we're going to be talking about today is motivation. What true motivation is, how the soul's impulse is misunderstood, and how to realign motivation from a Christ-centered, soul-led perspective. By the end, you'll have practical wisdom and inner tools to ignite a motivation that moves you deeply and sustainably. And this is something I've been thinking about for a long period of time, and I've heard from teenagers, young adults, as well as older adults, about how motivation seems to kind of wane away. We feel good in initial starts of things, and then all of a sudden it putters out. We forget, or we decide we don't want to do it anymore, or we decide we're too tired. Many things can go into this word of motivation, but we haven't thought about it from a spiritual standpoint. We've thought about it maybe more from the mundane view of motivation. Because in our modern world and culture, motivation is often seen as external reward, pushing ourselves to get that external reward. And we look at motivation as we're driving, for example, more money or recognition or status. And so we tend to talk about motivation as getting psyched up, finding your way, hustling harder. But you know what? Often motivation is seen as an external activity, like a coach or peer pressure or deadlines or fear of failure, or even social media pressure that's placed upon us. All these are external things. Even a guru or a spiritual teacher will keep us motivated. But that kind of motivation tends to wane. It's inconsistent, it's fleeting, and tiresome. What I want you to think about is spiritual soul view of motivation. Motivation from the soul side is an inner impulse, a divine attraction, an urging from higher self or your soul, your Christ presence within you. It's not pushing so much as pulling. It becomes a calling, a soulful beckoning. In Christian mystical traditions, one might call this the holy desire, or the Christ impulse within you, or the soul prompting that motivates us It's stable, deep, aligned, and tied to purpose, not just immediate gain. One of the reasons, and it's maybe several, that our culture views are incomplete as relates to motivation is because people chase extrinsic reward. They misinterpret fatigue, burnout, emptiness as personal failure. They often force actions from willpower, ignoring inner alignment or soul resonance. Many motivational teachings sidestep the spiritual core, making motivation secular and disconnected, in my view. Our aim is to understand motivation in the light of the soul in its union with Christ within. And so we want to dig a little bit deeper. And let's map 3 layers of motivation. Think of them as concentric rings or circles or levels that interplay into motivation, that we don't think about it in this way. So for example, level 1 is physical body motivation. When you're hungry, you're motivated to get something to eat, correct? This becomes survival, it's comfort. We're motivated by fear or pleasure. These are immediate drives, that interplay into this physical body motivation. And as I said about the hunger, I must get food, rest, and safety in order to survive. And this is necessary, but not sufficient for soul progress. Level 2 is ego, personality motivation, the energy going out. With this level 2, achievement and status and self-esteem, recognition, goals are all a part of this personality motivation, why we're doing what we're doing. And we sometimes say to ourselves, I want to be seen, or I want to be admired, or secure, successful. This is what we want the world to see of us. But guess what? This is where most secular motivation teaching resides. It stays at this level of the ego persona being motivated by the recognition or the attention. I would like you to think about concentric rings now. Think about level 3, soul, divine motivation. And this is the deeper longing to become, to serve, to love, to unfold, to progress, to grow. And that inner flame that says, not just for me, but flowing through me. This is the Christ-centered motivation. A movement of grace calling you onward and upward on your spiritual path. So this transition from level 2 to level 3 is soul work. Many people are stuck at level 2, treating personality desires as if they are soul desires. Let me give you a story that might drive this point home. There were 2 painters. One painted for fame and money, and the other painted because she felt a beautiful image inside her, calling her to bring it into the world. And the first worked hard, marketed aggressively, and gained followers, but grew increasingly hollow and anxious. The second painter, who painted slowly, sometimes unseen, often uncertain, but felt a sacred joy with each brushstroke, regardless of claim or fame. Which painter truly had lasting motivation? I would say the second one, because her work was aligned with her inner calling, not external reward. And when we pain from soul motivation, it doesn't collapse when rewards drop. The inner flame endures. So let me talk a little bit about how motivation is misunderstood and sabotaged and what we can do about it. First of all, think about this. The first misunderstanding relates to looking at motivation equals force. Many believe to be motivated, you must force yourself to do something. You have to force yourself to write, paint, to get the work project or the presentation completed. This leads to frustration, burnout, and even feeling guilty. Spiritual motivation flows. It doesn't push. It's not pushy. The next misunderstanding about motivation is it's got to be constant. People expect to always feel motivated. That's unrealistic. Psychologically, it's unrealistic that you have to feel motivated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in order to get something completed or done. It's not true. Motivation actually waxes and wanes. It's part of the human flow. As you see that goes in a stream, it waxes and wanes in its flow down the river or the ocean. It waxes and wanes as it comes in the tide and goes out the tide. So think about this. The soul's impulse stays subtle. It's not always roaring. Sometimes it's whispers. The next misunderstanding about motivation, that it comes from a must, not want. I must do this. Many drive themselves with obligations. I must or I should do this particular job because my family member asked me, or I should do this project over here because if I don't, then people may not like what I say about their projects. This must or this should is really an aspect of ego coercion, not soul calling. Instead, allow the inner I want to from a deeper self. I want to do this to the glory of God. I want to do this because it allows me to be able to learn things I wouldn't learn otherwise. It's a different motivation that you're moving from. And the other thing about this whole motivation cycle is there is a spiritual saboteur or spiritual sabotage, a shadow, fear, or pride that may be operating too, that you have to be aware of, that can come up in very overt or very subtle ways. For example, fear of failure or success can block soul motivation. Or pride can distort. I want to shine to be noticed without humility or soul purpose. You just want to shine. But who are you doing that shining for? Are you doing it to your higher self, allowing your soul to express in a more expansive way? Or just because of pride? The other aspect we have to be careful of in this saboteuring that it takes place spiritually is self-doubt. Can mask the call that you're not worthy. And I've talked about worthiness before, and I probably will continue to talk about it because it comes out in very subtle ways, this worthy thing. But we don't realize we are worthy. And we have to keep our attention on the fact that if we were born in the likeness of God, and we are a part of his creation, then we are worthy. Maybe our acts and our deeds can be refined and improved, but it doesn't take away from being worthy. One of the things we have to do to be in a different frequency of this issue around motivation, and right now I'm talking about spiritual sabotage, is we have to purify our motives. We have to purify our motives. We have to be like an eagle looking at why are we doing what we're doing and what's motivating us to do it. There is the pathway of the ego, and there is the pathway of the divine. It's reasons why we're doing what we're doing. What can we do to repair these types of misunderstandings about motivation in terms of it has to be forced, or it has to be constant, or it must be, or we're doing it from the shadow of us, the fear, the pride that is taking place? When that's happening, we've got to repair. We've got to figure out a way to have strategies that can help us during these times so we are in the right frequency of motivation. Let me talk about 5 different strategies. First of all, you need to discern motive, which I alluded to. Whenever you feel driven, ask, is this coming from fear, ego, or divine calling? 2, stillness and listening grace, listening practice. We've talked about this. We're always integrating these concepts together. Because I talked earlier in one of my previous episodes about staying tuned in light and love. Here, we're talking about stillness and listening grace and how you practice that. And that is by cultivating inner silence so that the soul impulse can surface, so you can hear your inner voice. You're willing to set aside a few minutes a day just to be still in listening grace, to see what your soul is trying to show you or teach you or guide you in some particular way. And the third strategy is aligned with your why. Why? Clarify your spiritual mission, not just your job or your role. Why am I doing what I'm doing? And the fourth is small acts of faith. Obey small inner nudges. Build trust that you can feel, or you know that was a nudge from my inner self telling me I needed to speak up, or telling me that I need to be silent, or telling me that I need to move in a different direction. And the fifth type of repair that you can do is grace and reset. Sometimes we need to allow rest without guilt, without shame. Fatigue can distort motivation. And we have to realize that when we're on that hustle and bustle, like the gerbil and a wheel, being always active, it does have an impact on us mentally, emotionally, physically, in terms of being more fatigued. We have to know that and be alert to that. That's why grace and rest. Being graceful to yourself, give yourself a break, and rest. Taking time out just to rest the mind, rest the heart, rest the body. All are important. So here's the story. I'm trying to do more stories to drive home the points and give you the keys of what I'm talking about. This is about a garden and the sea. A gardener planted a seed in rocky soil. He tried to force it to grow, watering it excessively, prodding it. It grew with weak stems. Then he transplanted it to fertile soil, gave sunlight, gentle water, and let nature take its course. The seed bloomed beautifully. Motivation is like that. You cannot force the soul seed to grow by pressure alone. You need fertile, aligned soil in harmony, clarity, devotion, plus the gentle care of surrender to the divine gardener. And when pressure is needed, another analogy of a diamond and the pressure that helps to form that diamond, you'll know that there'll be certain tests and initiations you go through, and know that it's just for the refining process. Welcome it and see how you may be able to shine that diamond even more. Plant the seed in the right soil, and not by force, by allowing it and doing the things that allows it to mature and grow through sunlight, through understanding there is certain fertile grounds that are important for certain seeds to grow in, and tilling the soil to make it that quality we talked about in terms of harmony, clarity, devotion, using love to help to nurture and grow the seeds. Totally different perspective when we're talking about motivation and the type of motivation that you want in alignment with your soul, your spiritual self. In order to cultivate Christ-centered motivation, I'm going to call it soul-centered motivation, spiritual motivation, whatever word you want to give to it, I would like to suggest 7 practices you can integrate to realign your motivation to the soul, Christ within you. The first, have you ever thought about using daily invocations, prayers, or to help to align, to create alignment? For example, you begin each day by asking, Lord, I'm open to your impulse in me. Let my motivation be with you. This centers motivation in Christ's love, not ego. Or you can say, Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for helping me to keep focused on the things I need to focus on. And it may be A or B or C. And help me to continue to have the flow of energy by your grace that allows me to be able to get these things done. You're in this kind of flow of gratitude. You're in this flow of thanksgiving. You're in this flow of being connected to something greater than yourself. The second thing you can do, have you ever did inner check-in rituals with yourself? Inner check-in rituals. For example, at intervals throughout your day and evening, you pause and you say, why am I doing this now? Is this aligned with my soul's? You may want to either journal something quickly, write it in your notepad on your phone, or just engage in a silent reflection. All this helps. Why am I doing this now? Is this aligned with my soul's why? And when you take that pause to do that check-in rituals throughout the day, you start to begin hearing your soul and what your soul's saying. That's not in alignment with what we need at this point in time. Then you ask, what is? And you just make the subtle correction. That is allowing you now to live in harmony with your soul and have a conversation with your soul. The third thing you can do is envisioning from the soul imagination. Envision your life in fullest divine potential. Let that inner vision magnetize motivation. It's like the imitation of Christ speaks of the inner bridegroom's vision, drawing the soul up. It's as if you want to be able to use, especially for those who have great imaginations, use your imagination to visualize your fullest potential, your fullest spiritual, divine, soul center. And that magnetizes our motivation because we have that vision. And we want to now honor that vision. And the fourth thing you can do, you don't have to do all of these, but these are all food for thought as you're trying to understand the pulling you towards motivation and not always feeling pushed by an external something. And this next one is about micro obediences. Small ways that you can be obedient. Do small next right steps, even when you don't feel motivated. Each obedience primes your inner track. These small things that we can do that our ego has to step aside because, oh, that's too hard, or you can't do that. No, it steps aside because we're now allowing ourselves to do inch by inch. You ever hear inch by inch? It becomes a cinch. Well, that's what we want. Inch by inch. Very small, micro obediences that we can do that keeps us moving forward in alignment with our spiritual path. The fifth thing, and this is rest. We all need to be able to rest and look at what your rhythm of rest is, which is unique for each person. Your soul needs rest too. Motivation recovers in silence, reflection, play. Avoid pushing. And when we're always pushing, driving, that's not necessarily what is needed for your soul and your soul's progress on this path. The soul likes to have fun too. It likes to rest. It likes to be in the joy of the moment. Not always thinking about, wow, we got to achieve this, and then we got to achieve that, and then we need to do this, and then we need to do that. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Do we really? And this is where asking yourself more internal questions that anchors you in your spiritual understanding of your soul, the Christ, the Atman, the I am presence, and what is true motivation. It moves you, it pulls you, it does not push you. Is what I'm saying about one of the higher qualities of motivation. Now let's get back. The sixth thing that you can do is community and what I call community and accountability of light. And that is surrounding yourself with spiritual companions, friends, who encourage inner depth, not just external metrics. That's there as a community that you're working together, you're talking with each other, that feels uplifting, feels inspiring, allows you to think maybe in a different way that expands your light. And also allows you to be accountable for the light that you are utilizing in whatever you're doing. And then the seventh thing is witnessing and service. Serving others aligns you outwardly. Motivation becomes less about self-gain and more about love flow, the giving of yourself, the helping of others, allowing you to be in a different level in awareness about how you are staying motivated through the service of others. What do you think about that? Let let me guide you through a short integration exercise. It requires you to close your eyes. If you're not able to close your eyes because you're driving or you're walking, that's fine. Just kind of be in a reflective mode. But those who can, close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Breathe in and breathe out. Bring to mind a goal you're currently striving for. Ask, what is my deepest why behind this? What is my deepest why behind this goal? Feel into your soul. Is there a deeper impulse, a whisper? Just sense. The reason that we're asking these questions is because we don't do it enough. So we don't get that sense. But the more that we do this very brief activity, the more that your soul, your inner self, inner wisdom starts to speak to you. So again, feel into your soul and ask, Lord, align my motive with you. Let my desire flow from your heart. The more that we ask the Lord, not my will, but thine be done. Align my motive, purify this motive. Let me see it from a different perspective that helps to expand that why. And you're asking, let my desire flow from your heart, not my little ego, but from the purity of your heart to the purity to my heart. Sit quiet for 30 seconds, breathing in and out, allowing any insight or longing to surface. When you emerge, jot down what came. See how that shifts your sense of motivation towards soul impulse, a higher awareness of motivation. You might be surprised how this integrative type of activity can really help you. But I must say, you might find vague hesitation or fear or resistance. That's just data. It's not failure. It's pointing you to inner terrain needing care, needing to cultivate that garden within you, needing to be aware that there is a whole source and resource that exists right within you. What I want to close by saying is, what we call motivation is often driven by our ego, fears, rewards, or hunger for something. But your soul, your Christ presence within, has a higher impulse, a calling, waiting to awaken. And as you purify motive, ask for it to be purified, and you learn to listen, and that listening grace, just for a few minutes, and you obey the small nudges trying to move you forward, along with resting, because we need to have rest. When we're too fatigued, we can't hear anything. We can't feel anything other than our fatigue. And when you move forward with this aligning with inner vision, guess what? Your motivation shifts from mere force to sacred flow. Sacred flow. That is what we're trying to get in the flow of every day, is sacred. And ask for that sanctity, that sacredness, that holiness of your connection with your higher self, your creator, your I am presence, to always flow through you, because that is your choice. We can have two choices. We can choose the flow of the sacredness, or we can choose the ego. And we have to make a decision. Whether we're aware or not, we're making those decisions every day. May your days be stirred by divine purpose, not pressure, but soul yearning, not restlessness, but a sacred flow that you're learning to allow yourself to be in every day. Something to think about. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining me for this episode on Mastering Life's Adventures, being your best self through soul evolution. If you have enjoyed what you've heard today, I would be delighted if you would share this episode with others, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe to my Mastering Life's Adventures podcast. Look forward to your joining the next episode. Please leave any comments or suggestions you might have below. Bye for now.